I'm a director of business strategy for Middle East and India for Virgin Hyperloop. I'm so excited to be presenting virtually today at Techfest IIT Mumbai. As you know, Hyperloop has extensive roots in India. I'm excited to share with you the vision that we have for India, especially with the young, bright minds on the call today. Let me start by taking you back in time to 2016 when we first landed in India via what we call the Hyperloop One Global Challenge. At the time, we were named Hyperloop One, and since then we've changed our name to Virgin Hyperloop, as Virgin is now one of our investors and key partners as we go forward. So back in 2016, we launched a global challenge, and it was literally to find the best and most promising routes for Hyperloop around the world. We were really blown away by the support and the interest that we got from all over India. And I wasn't surprised by this at all. Being from India, originally studying and growing up there, I knew that India inherently had a major need for a transport system like Hyperloop. And not only a need, India also has some of the young and bright minds that can really make this a reality, and also the visionary thinking of actually bringing something like this to the country. We were blown away by the enthusiasm we saw in India, which held the record for the most number of applications and registrants into the competition. And we had no choice but to book our tickets, just fly down there immediately to meet some of the people and the teams. And it's literally a lot of young people like yourselves, students from universities, reputed universities, that were really putting in these applications, and they were saying, we want to build Hyperloop between Mumbai and Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and the like. And there was at least, I would say, like 100+ applications, of which we down selected, and we selected the top few, which we invited to this event, which, as you can see, was graced by a lot of very, very important people and reputed people from the government sector as well as the private sector, where we launched our vision for India. So yet, this enthusiasm didn't come as a surprise to me, like I mentioned earlier, and the company. It goes back to history, where India is always known to be leapfrogging through technologies, as we've seen many times over and over again. And right now, here we are again, where there's a massive opportunity for India to leapfrog in the area of transportation. As we know today, there's no high-speed mode that connects major cities between, intercity travel in India. And there's a huge demand, as you see air travel just skyrocketing, the demand for air travel, as well as, the rail system, which is obviously has a long history in India, is completely at capacity. And so we believe that with Virgin Hyperloop, there's going to be a huge opportunity to connect people in a way that's fast, efficient, and clean. And I'll take you through what this means in terms of the projects that we have in India, also how the technology works, and how it can be actually developed and built in India. So as I mentioned, the transport demand in India has increased nearly 8 times since the 1980s. And with this growing economy, as we know, India's been growing very, very quickly. There's challenges, and there's actually a need for new solutions to sustain that economic growth. There's a real need for innovative transportation solutions, not just in India, but around the world. There hasn't been a new mode of transport in over 100 years. Existing solutions are just not enough to tackle the congestion choking some of India's vibrant cities. Traffic jams in just 4 Indian cities cost $22 billion a year, where travelers spend an hour and a half or more on daily commutes, much more than a lot of their Asian counterparts in today's world. Tackling urban transport challenges is both an existential question for India and an opportunity closely tied to its fundamental strengths: booming cities, a vibrant young workforce, and robust economic growth. So what can we do about this? Hyperloop, we believe, is really the answer to the 21st century challenges in terms of mobility and transport. Virgin Hyperloop, what we're trying to do here is satisfy India's search for ultra-fast, affordable, safe, and sustainable transport technologies that also develops and offers the opportunity to deliver productivity gains to the citizens. What rail was in the 19th century, like I was mentioning, is what Hyperloop could be in the 21st century, and India could be leading the way. As the first mover in this new mode of transport in over 100 years, India will become the global manufacturing and export hub for Hyperloop systems, which will fuel demand for high-tech jobs in India and partnerships with educational institutions like IIT and all the bright minds listening in today. Let me back up here and explain what Hyperloop is, and I'm sure you're all interested to know how it works and what the system's all about. So with Hyperloop, fundamentally you have vehicles, which we call pods, that accelerate gradually via electric propulsions through a low pressure tube. The pod floats along the track using magnetic levitation and glides at airline speeds for long distances due to ultra low aerodynamic drag. So embedded in this technology is a new way of thinking about mass transport, one that meets the energy and consumer demands of the coming century. So all of this, the system is completely autonomous, as you can see. And what it allows you to do is really glide along with very little energy consumptions. And I'll talk about that in the coming slides as well. So really what this means is it's on demand, which is nothing we've seen before for a mass transit system, right? It's a get in, get up and go model where you actually get into the station, your pod is waiting for you, you get on the pod, and you go direct to your destination, which is another major feature. When people think about Hyperloop, they're always thinking about speed. It's really fast. Well, it is fast, but the true benefits really come from the time savings. And the time savings is not just from speed, but it's the fact that you're waiting less and you're going directly to your destination. You're not stopping along the way. It's fully autonomous, which makes it safe. Safer than having human intervention, and then also 100% electric, so zero direct emissions. And like I was saying earlier, it could be up to 10 times more energy efficient than air travel, but with similar speeds. So literally you're flying at airline speeds, but you're on the ground, and it's 100% electric. So there's a lot of benefits right there. One of the other things that I'll add here is that Hyperloop can actually connect city centers to city centers. Unlike airports, which are always located away from city centers due to the noise, the environmental pollution, etc., Hyperloop can be integrated within city centers. And because these pods are modular, they're small, they carry up to 28 passengers per pod, you can actually build a station at a high capacity right in the city center without disrupting too much around the station. And I'll talk about that when I talk about some of the projects that we're working on in India. So in fact, the other major point that I want to dwell on a little bit here is Hyperloop could eliminate up to 150,000 tons of pollution per year. And this is just on one project. The Mumbai-Pune project, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of as it's in your neck of the woods, is really one of the most advanced projects that we've been studying. And as a result of our studies on looking at the travel demand, as well as the number of cars and buses that can be taken off the roads, this is a huge improvement in terms of the environmental situation and reducing emissions along that corridor. So just to give you a sense of what 150,000 tons of pollution every year could mean, that's basically, you're looking at powering 26,000 homes a year with that energy, and you're removing 30,000 cars from the road. Think about what that means for a city like Mumbai. It reduces congestion significantly, as you all, I'm sure have at some point traveled out to Pune. And as you know, getting out of Mumbai is the most difficult part of that journey, right? And getting back into Mumbai. Once you're on the expressway, it's quite easy to do. So the way we're looking at this is, Mumbai and Pune with an intermediate stop in Navi Mumbai Airport. But when I say stop, it doesn't mean the pods need to stop. It's an intermediate station. All pods are traveling, point to point, direct to your destination. So beyond sustainability, like I talked about, there's enormous socioeconomic impacts. And the biggest impact is really the travel time savings. So you're taking a journey, which I think we're being very conservative on this slide, saying it's 2 hours and 31 minutes by car, but we all know it's It's longer than that on most days. We're dropping that down to 25 minutes. And we're doing that in a way, even though our system is capable of much higher speeds, we're also looking at optimizing the alignment so it doesn't disrupt a lot of the population living along the corridor, and following along the expressway as closely as possible. So we are going a little slower than we can, but that's obviously to minimize disruption. Still, the time savings is significant. And what that does is it really boosts productivity between the cities, maximizes and increases the socioeconomic benefits. It also creates a lot of direct and indirect jobs. And the number that we've estimated here, along with our partners, is 1.8 million direct and indirect jobs over the life of the project. And that's not just coming from building this project. It's also looking at what can be manufactured and made in India, and what manufacturing could be basically housed in India and exported around the world for other Hyperloop projects as well. And that's the first mover opportunity that we're talking about here. In terms of the socioeconomic benefits from this project, you're talking about $36 billion in socioeconomic benefits in today's terms over the life of the project. And I talked about emissions and I talked about productivity, but there's also safety, accident savings, as well as looking at other things like fuel cost savings and reducing maintenance on existing infrastructure. So there's a lot of economic benefits, and there's a major economic case for the project. But this is just one project, right? This is where we're looking to start, and this is the first, potentially could be the first project, commercial project, Hyperloop project in the world. There's so many opportunities like this in India. We're exploring projects now in Karnataka with Bangalore, with the Bangalore International Airports. There's other opportunities we've looked at in Punjab. But then just imagine, traveling from Mumbai to Delhi in 55 minutes, or Mumbai to Chennai in 50 minutes, or Bangalore to Chennai in 20 minutes. I mean, it just changes the whole dynamic of how we move today. So clearly, this is a huge opportunity for India to lead the world. But what may not be clear immediately is how real the technology is. Is this a pipe dream? Is it science fiction? Well, let me cover that right off the bat here. And I want to, tell you that Hyperloop is real and Hyperloop is here. So very recently, November 8th, 2020, is when the first passengers traveled safely on a Hyperloop. And this test, the first of its kind, very historic moment, happened at our Apex site in Nevada, north of Las Vegas, where we actually ran a two-seater prototype vehicle on our 𝗀𝗏𝗏 track. And we carried 4 passengers, 2 and 2, and then we ran the spot at 48 meters a second in a vacuum environment. While this is not what Hyperloop would be on a full scale, we'll obviously carry up to 28 passengers per pod, and obviously at much higher speeds and over longer distances. What this means is this is the first step towards achieving certification. We demonstrated that the system can be safe, that I'll show you the video right after this, but you'll see that the passengers, travel comfortably without any additional safety gear. They didn't have to do anything extreme to prepare for this. And they came out, smiling and laughing, as you'll see in the next video. And this is a major step towards Hyperloop development. We can only go, scale up from here. The fundamentals are there. And now the next step for us is really to commercialize and bring this technology to the market. One of the opportunities actually that we talked about in India, the first step of building a project in India would be to build the first phase of a demonstration project, a certification track, which would be on the order of 10 kilometers or so. And one of the ideas is to actually build that along the Mumbai-Pune corridor. The purpose of that would be to achieve safety certification in India and make sure the system is safe before we build commercial projects with actual real passengers traveling on them. So the entire process of building and demonstrating this system has gone through a very, very rigorous safety process, which was validated by a third-party independent consultant. So the test, it was about fundamentally proving that Hyperloop is safe for passengers, and doing so via a rigorous process, which our company is now getting a grip on, because this is a process that we're going to have to repeat over and over again as we go to commercialization. So how does this fit into the bigger picture of having passengers like you riding Hyperloop one day on the system? So we've seen tremendous progress on the project here in India, Mumbai-Pune, as well as in Bangalore. And Virgin Hyperloop has already been named the original project proponent for the Mumbai-Pune project, and shortly we'll be invited to submit our proposal to the government. At the federal level, there's been a lot of support, and recently the NITI Aayog has just formed a panel to explore Hyperloop technology within India, to explore the viability as well as the feasibility of the technology and how the technology can be regulated in India. With all these advancements in India, India has every opportunity to lead in the next transport revolution, and we're proud to be taking this step together. With that, I'll just show you a quick video on our test, and you'll be surprised to see that literally one of the first passengers on the pod was somebody from Maharashtra, from Pune. And then we'll talk more about that right after the video. Can you please cue up the video?
This is 𝗀𝗲𝗍𝗀𝗻 here. I'm super excited right now, super pumped. That's because I just rode a Hyperloop.
Pegasus, this is Capcom. Prepare for launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch.
This is real. This is as real as it gets. These were definitely the most glorious 15 seconds of my life. I can never forget them, never ever. Hyperloop is real. I'm really proud to represent India, really proud to represent Pune, and I'm really proud to represent Maharashtra in this endeavor. And I really think that Hyperloop is a viable solution in between Pune and Mumbai. Super pumped about it. It is real. We are doing it. We will do it in India.
Thank you. So as you saw in the video, we had Tanay, who is one of our own electric engineers working in Los Angeles on developing our product and developing our system. And he's been with the company for 5 years now. And he was part of developing this core technology. He actually had a chance to be one of the first few passengers on the pod. And I think this is a really inspiring video, especially for everyone watching here from IIT, because Tanay literally went to school not far from where you are, and then really has become one of the first people to ever ride a Hyperloop, which is a really historic thing, and we're all really proud of him. So as you saw there, Hyperloop is real, it's happening soon, and we're looking forward to building the first projects out in India. I'm happy to take a few questions now. So it looks like I've got a couple of questions on the chat here. So the first question is, what major changes come architecturally in a Hyperloop station design? So that's a great question, because there's a lot of material out there on how Hyperloop works and how the system operates. But this is the next level down in terms of what a station could look like. And I think it's a very interesting question, especially in the Mumbai and Pune context, where there's very little land available for stations. And I think Hyperloop is really interesting from that perspective, because you can really pack in a lot of capacity. We're talking about 16,000 passengers per hour per direction for the Mumbai-Pune project out of a station in the center of Mumbai, right? And that's obviously not an easy thing to accomplish. The way we do it is that it's a railway station, traditional railway station, is linear. You have multiple platforms, very long platforms where people need to board on those platforms and then board the train. With Hyperloop, you have pods. So every compartment of a train, if you can imagine it, is a pod, and those pods are not physically coupled together, which allows you a lot of flexibility in terms of your architectural design and your space proofing of that station. So you can have much smaller platforms arranged in many different ways, depending on the shape of the land available for that station. And because you're having these pods, continuously cycling through the station, that's what lets you become an on-demand system. And also, as a pod comes in and leaves the station, there's very little disruption because it's not like a massive train, coming in and leaving. When you look in airport context, you need to have massive runways, which is why airports are located very far out from cities. You need a lot of land for that kind of system. So this is taking the best of both worlds. You're taking airline speeds, but you're taking a much smaller footprint, and you're bringing the system right into the city center. We'll soon be releasing, some pictures and renderings of what the stations would look like in the Indian context, and I think keep an eye out for that. That's going to be pretty exciting. There's another question here in terms of how much impact will this technology have on this generation? That's another great question, and I'll answer that by going back to the 90s and 2000s when we were in the IT revolution, and that was a really big thing for the time. And anyone that was coming out of school and graduating at that time literally jumped on the bandwagon there. And India had a huge role to play in that as well. And there's tech centers in India like Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc., that really capitalized on that. And the way we see Hyperloop is it's the next big thing. It's the transport revolution, right? And now is the time for major change in transportation and mobility. And for everyone that's in school, coming out of school, there's just been so much advancement in software, autonomous vehicles. All of that needs to be put into use, I think, towards mobility. Mobility is what's going to define the future in terms of how people can move. There's cities are getting more and more congested and more populated, and there needs to be solutions, and we need people, smart minds, to really focus on this problem. So from that perspective, I would say that this is a very exciting field to get into. But in terms of the impact for this generation, I mean, we're in a world where the future generation is thinking about climate change. We're thinking about congestion. We're thinking about resources, and a technology like this is really something that can impact on all of those areas by being 100% electric, by being sustainable, reducing the energy consumption. These are things that are high priority for us and our generation, and this is what will define our future. So I would say that there's major impact, and and it's really, really exciting for everyone to jump in on this. Okay, I have another question that's coming in. What are the protocols and effects of an earthquake in case it does happen? And I'll answer that by saying that we have a lot of infrastructure that's built and operating right now, and they've all been built to withstand certain seismic loads. And Hyperloop is the same. Whether you build a metro or a rail system or even a highways elevated structure, they all have to be designed to withstand certain seismic loads depending on where they're located. And the codes, the local codes of that area and that region will define how that system is designed. And Hyperloop would be no different. The structure itself will be designed to the applicable local codes and will be designed to withstand those loads, just like any other infrastructure. Okay, so another question coming in: how many coaches can be attached to the train if it is built for a long route, and how feasible it is from the cost point of view in a country like India? Simply put, how does the cost compare with airfare? So in terms of how many coaches can be attached to the train, so it's a great question. So we use the terminology pods for coaches. So the pods, like I said, is 28 passengers per pod. These pods are traveling individually, but they can be convoyed together. So, but not physically connected, right? So this is digital convoys where they're traveling along like a train, but not physically connected or close to each other. And you can have up to 10 pods in a convoy. These convoys can be built at the station as they're leaving the station. But the beauty of it is that a coach or a pod can separate from the convoy at any given time to go towards the station. And similarly, a pod can also join a convoy midway as it's traveling through the system. So this allows you the flexibility to go on demand and direct to destination, but it also allows the station footprints to be smaller, like I was mentioning earlier. In terms of cost point of view in a country like India and the fare, so look, if the system is not affordable, if the fares are not affordable, nobody's going to ride it. And this is a mass transport system that we're designing, which should be available and affordable to the masses. It wouldn't make sense to build a large infrastructure project between two cities with very few people riding it. It wouldn't be economically feasible. It wouldn't be financially feasible. So the fares have to be comparable with the existing modes along that corridor. So in the Mumbai-Pune case, there's very few flights. As we know, mainly people are driving, or they're taking taxis, or they're taking the train or buses. And where we're looking at being is in a place where we are competitive with all of those modes, so that people see the benefit with the time savings and they say, okay, I'm going to switch to Hyperloop because it makes more sense for me from a cost perspective, from a time saving perspective, and from a sustainability perspective, right? So we will be very, very closely priced to the existing modes along any corridor that we work in. Otherwise, it's not going to make much sense for us. Thank you very much. I think that's the end of the presentation. Thanks everybody for listening. There's no further questions. I'm happy to take any questions over email as we go forward. And I wish all of you the best for the coming year.